Okay, it's Reusse Unchained here on Score North, and Patrick has been exclusively told.
Yes, I've been exclusively told that Aaron Rodgers is not coming to the Twin Cities. So everyone who has vowed that they would not watch the Vikings again if Aaron Rodgers came to the Twin Cities can now go back to being fixated on them. Pelissero, I guess, gets credit for the scoop, if there was a scoop. Did any of you three think this was ever a possibility?
That's my. So I'll answer with a question back to you. Are we really to believe the arc of the national reporting of this, that it's the Vikings are leaning, say they're working on a deal with Sam Darnold, and then they decide that now they're moving into
Yeah,
Rodgers, and then they're, or was this was predetermined for months? As long as JJ McCarthy didn't suffer a crazy knee setback,
yes,
he's going to be the
yes,
quarterback.
yes. Let's go back to last season where we might bring Kirk back. That was all horse manure from the start. They were not bringing him back. They were going to go find somebody else. I don't think they were going to turn it over to McCarthy. They brought in Sam Darnold to play 6 games, and then McCarthy got hurt. But they were never bringing back Cousins. But it doesn't hurt it doesn't hurt them to have a lot of conversation about is Kirk Cousins coming back or not, right? Because
Yeah.
it keeps them in the news. And even though I never thought there was a 5% chance that he was coming back because they weren't going to spend that kind of money for the first time in 20 years. They didn't have a cap problem if they let this overrated loser go to Atlanta, and they did that. And this year, that's been the same. Well, they're going to spend 30 million on Rodgers to play 5 games, and then put themselves back where they were with the cap before. It's not never made
Yes.
any sense.
And on Sam too, Patrick. So this all like they're nice guys and that's fine, but the amount of like propaganda that they allow when you look at what Darnold got paid, right?
Yes,
If they had wanted Darnold back,
yes,
it
they
would have
could have.
been it would have been at least Kirk got the bag. So like
Yes,
it's like, oh, he got
yes.
paid too much. You can't say, well, Sam got the bag from Seattle. So
No,
this was never like we jump from story to story believing the narratives instead of saying, oh no, he was never coming back here. Sam Darnold was never coming back.
no, and no, because what were they going to offer him? 25 mil? Maybe to maximum. I don't think they were going to. Yeah, he was. I said that from, not that I'm an expert in any way on the Vikings. I probably spent less time worrying about him than anybody in Minnesota. But they'd never made any sense. But the Vikings, to some extent, that's kind of the new operation. They want to be nice guys, so they don't say, "God, no, we're not bringing him
Yeah.
back." So
Pat, I will.
kind of
I will.
like
So we,
kind of like Zim with Case Keenum. Get out of here! You were lucky. You were lucky. We don't
Case
want
was
you.
Case was so sad on Radio Row. He joined our show and he had already kind of read the writing on the wall that they aren't going to bring him back. But real quick, the only thing I could see the Vikings maybe considering going back the last month or two is maybe at the combine they got a feel for, boy, it actually isn't going to be 45 or 50 million dollars a year for Darnold. It's going to be 33
Yeah,
million, which is where it landed. And Pelissero in his tweet today specifically said the first line of it was the Vikings have turned down multiple trade offers for McCarthy, and he didn't give a timeline on it. But I do wonder if there was a scenario where, boy, we could actually sign Darnold for half as much as the top paid quarterbacks are making, and maybe the Raiders will give up the 6th overall pick for McCarthy, and now you have a bargain of a Sam Darnold and the 6th overall pick. Like, I wonder if there were some other options like that.
Pelissero trained at the Godfather of Score North. He's no dummy. He'll throw all that crap out there too to try to create a great conversation. Here's the one thing I can see: Harbaugh loves McCarthy. Let's trade McCarthy for her, Abear, and go from there. Or, get the Get the $50 million quarterback who's a sure thing. No,
Yeah.
that's not happening either. They like having cap money and they can sign people and they're not going to be able to spend it all, are they?
Yeah, you
They're gonna
can.
be under the cap for the first time ever because they can't spend it all.
They've sort of oddly structured contracts, even more so to be backloaded than they would need to. So they've definitely left themselves like 30 or 40 million dollars in breathing room, even with all the signings they've made, which you can roll that over if you don't use it into next year. But like them doing that has opened up questions of what are you planning to do? Is there a big salary player that you could bring in? And so we'll see if they
Who's
have another.
so what of the journeyman floating around? Who's the most likely to be the backup now to
Well,
McCarthy?
Carson, we've had two independent
Wentz.
people tell us that they spotted Carson Wentz at MSP this week.
Oh, I'm sure that would be logical, but is he? Can you rely on him? I don't know. By the way, Dallas let Cooper Rush go. Are they keeping Trey Lance or what are they
He's a
doing?
free agent too if you
No.
He's
want
a
him.
free agent too. So who they just have Dak and whoever they're like the Vikings. They're just looking for another guy. They'll see who's left at the end. Is that it?
Yeah, who is
So
Dallas's second quarter? I have
I
no
don't
idea.
know. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Lance shows up here as the third guy, but
No.
as
We
the
got Brett
second
Rippon
guy.
here, Pat.
Oh, that's right.
Don't forget
Rippon.
Brett Rippon, coach in waiting.
Hey, we saw his.
We have Charlie
that was-
Fry here now
wasn't
too.
wasn't that his daddy who won a Super Bowl here?
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah.
his daddy? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, uncle.
Or
I
is he
think.
uncle?
Uncle?
The uncle.
Okay.
Uncle.
It's not his dad.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't. You're gonna play this guy. I mean, come on. He didn't spend an okay. He didn't play last year. He didn't spend a year out there not learning anything. Play him. What the hell are you waiting for?
Hey,
Let's go.
Dante Culpepper also drafted
Yes.
right around the same spot, did
Same
not play,
thing.
came in, great infrastructure, offensive weapons, everything, and led the league in touchdown passes.
Denny was a man ahead of his time as far as marketing too, because he had us looking at Dan Marino.
That's right.
Dan Marino to come in here.
It was just like, yeah, you're right. Just like
it
this.
it was the same situation, and Denny never had any. He didn't want Marino, for God's sakes. Denny
Torn Achilles too, right?
Uh,
I think he had torn
He
his
was coming off a torn Achilles.
with the
torn
yeah.
Achilles. Same
There
thing.
you go.
Right? And you
Wow.
know, the only thing I can still see, and this makes me throw up, uh, a fourth rounder to Atlanta 3 days before the season starts, and you end up not paying Kirk any money. He's the backup.
Well, wait though, Pat. So that you've touched on a speculative topic on Vikings Twitter here that we hit on this week. So 8 years ago, the Houston Texans regretted the Brock Osweiler contract, and they said, "All right, this was a bad.
Holy cow! Name out of the past. Go ahead.
This was a bad contract. We want to move off it." So they started calling around, and the Browns said, "All right, we don't really want Brock, but we have a bunch of cap space. So how about this? We'll take on the Brock Osweiler contract, and you send a second round pick along with it, and we'll kick back like a later round pick." So could that be the Vikings have a bunch of cap space? Hey, all right, we'll take Kirk as a backup and take on some of that money, and you send a second or third round pick along with Kirk to make it happen.
All right, the other one, Jameis. Any chance for Jameis?
I'm all in on that.
I love Jameis.
I don't see
love
it.
Jameis. He's got
I don't
the
see
arm,
Jameis.
man. He's
Yeah.
got the arm. He's a little flighty, but
No conscience though when he
he's
throws
got
that
the
ball,
arm.
Pat. He's got the arm to throw it to both teams.
Yes. How? But he's not owed any money, right? He's just floating around now.
Yeah, he visited with the Giants this weekend. Yeah.
Oh, maybe if he's the quarterback whisperer, maybe he can whisper to Jameis. I don't know.
Who is he? Oh, real quick. So on that subject, last thing, and then you take it wherever you want. So, these random quarterbacks that pop up in Vikings history, the Case Keenums, the NFC Championship game, Jeff George, of the guys so you got your Jameis Winston, Joe Flacco's available, Carson Wentz.
Not Joe
Flacco. I think Jameis Winston is the most likely of that collection to be the next random quarterback if needed to run into the playoffs and make some crazy
I hope so.
thing.
I love Jameis. I always love Jameis. I think he's colorblind. That's the only problem. Has anybody checked to see if he's colorblind? That's the only.
What if that is the problem?
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
He just needs some.
I'd like to thank the doctor who found out I was colorblind at the tender age of 31.
Yeah, okay, now I got to tell you, you're an old guy, you're sitting around in your easy chair watching TV and you're kind of drifting, you start contemplating. Here's my contemplation that I had last night and then this morning. What sport, and it was triggered by this Okada that they end up getting third overall pick. Okuda, whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Third overall pick. Now he had an injury, but third overall pick, for God's sakes, as a cornerback. What sport is it easiest to be wrong about? Baseball, football, basketball, or hockey? What sport is it easiest to be wrong about? Now, before analytics and you measurements and stuff, 20 years ago, it was baseball, without a doubt, right?
Yeah.
It was baseball. I'm
Still
not
baseball.
sure if it still is, because you can measure bat speed, and you're not going to give BJ Garby, you're not going to draft him 10th overall because he's a great athlete when you find out he can't hit because he doesn't have any bat speed. So baseball, it might still be baseball, but I'm certain I don't think it's a slam dunk anymore.
I think it's still baseball.
Me too.
Do you?
I think it's baseball, and I actually think hockey is next because of the age.
Mm-hmm.
Football on quarterbacks is probably the toughest position, perhaps, but football as a whole, to me, because there's such a body of work in college, is the easiest to be right about.
And you're projecting, like you said, 21-year-olds and 22-year-olds instead of 18-year-old high school baseball players.
That's probably the case, although, boy, you're wrong on a lot of football players, too. And of course, the injury factor in football is higher than in any other
But baseball,
sport. Unless you play for the Twins, and then the injury factor is... I see we had a piece today about, wait till we see Emmanuel Rodriguez. Wow, is this guy something? Yeah, he plays 12 games a year, but that's fine.
That's true.
But
So true.
I don't think it's the slam dunk it used to be.
But the first round of the baseball draft, to me, is still like a lot of guys where you just have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
So I still think baseball, because there's if you're drafting a high school kid, that is extremely tough, I think.
Yeah. I would think, okay, maybe baseball, they work over a guy too much almost anymore. But football, I would think their biggest problem is they work them over. They have 12 different people trying to decide whether this guy is going to be a great left tackle or not. And it's hard in all of them. Hockey, it's hard, I think, because, the draft is damn near unimportant. They end up, 7 rounds, and 5 of them
teenagers too.
5 of them are never going to get out of AA, or 5 of them are going to end up peaking in the East Coast Hockey League or something. Yeah.
Yeah, baseball, just for fun, I just pulled up the 2001 Major League, the Joe Mauer, Mark Pryor draft from 2001. Yes. Of the first 17 picks in the 2001 Major League Baseball draft, 8 never played in the major leagues.
Never made it, huh? Yeah. Well, who's the pitcher that they were allegedly, not Pryor because they didn't want to pay him,
Dewan Brazelton?
Yeah, Dewan. Did he ever pitch in big leagues? I don't.
A little. He pitched 11 games in the big leagues.
Yeah,
for
they
the
were
Rays.
considering him, and he was a 18-year-old high school pitcher. I would be more afraid of an 18-year-old high school pitcher. Well, I guess not, because hitting is the great unknown. Once you say that in selecting sports draft choices, anything, hitting is the great unknown.
Yeah, actually, Brazelton he did pitch in 63 career major league games.
Oh, really?
A 6.38 earned run average.
And he went what, 4th or 5th?
He's third.
Third.
Yeah, just ahead of Gavin Floyd and Mark Teixeira.
Wow. Yeah, well, Teixeira, I think, was another case of some teams didn't want to pay him.
Too expensive.
Right? Yeah, because back then Back
Yep,
then,
college.
there were no limits, right? They just paid him. Now they can,
Right.
they got slots and stuff. But anyway, I was contemplating this and decided it's not the slam dunk it used to be, but it's probably still
No.
pretty.
Well, this is Brian Flores. As we talk about KOC with his little quarterback rehab school. Now we got cornerback rehab school here. Let's
Yes,
get
yes.
a top 3 pick
Here's
coached up into
another.
shape.
Here's another thing. The NBA, you would think, even though they're drafting kids now, you would think the NBA would be the easiest because, you can see that. But then you go back to a draft like that. Who was the draft that Olawakandi was the first draft choice?
Oh
I mean,
man.
you look at
Yeah.
that, they had nothing but mutts in that draft. I don't know how you can have a world where there are 2 million 18-year-olds playing basketball and you can draft stiffs in the first round of the NBA. I can't.
I got one
I
name
can
for
never
you,
figure
Patrick.
it.
Anthony Bennett.
Yes,
Oh
Do
man.
you
Anthony
remember that
Bennett.
draft?
That too. What was that first? Was he first?
Yes.
Was he
Yeah.
first?
Toronto, right?
But was
Yeah.
there another option there? Let's pull up that draft here.
Yeah.
That might have just been there
Bad.
was
Yeah, but
really.
that's what I'm saying. How can it be that bad? How can you have a
Okay, here are
draft?
the options. Anthony Bennett number 1, Victor Oladipo, who
Yeah, good,
injuries derailed him. He's a good
decent
player,
player.
but and then Otto Porter Jr. is just kind of
Whoa.
a role player.
Wow.
Cody Zeller, Alex Len,
Oh,
Nerlens Noel, Ben McLemore, Kentavious Caldwell Pope, Trey
Mhm.
Burke, who the Wolves drafted then
Yes.
traded, right?
Yeah. That was
This
the
is one of the
flip.
all-time bad drafts.
CJ
That
CJ
was
McCollum was
McCollum.
10.
That was a flip. Flip should have taken C.J. McCollum, and
Yeah.
he backed off on him, and then ended up with he drafted.
Giannis was 15th in that
Yeah,
draft.
Giannis was 15th. We drafted 14th and 19th, I think. 14th. Didn't we draft?
Shabazz.
Who'd we draft? Shabazz.
And
The
Gorgie.
amazing thing about Shabazz being drafted in a great flip moment, we were talking to Flip, and he was telling us how much he didn't like Shabazz before the draft, like a week before the draft. Remember, he'd played against the
Oh,
the
Gophs.
Gophs in the
Tough.
tournament as a freshman and was awful. And and Flip didn't want him, but he took him anyway because he screwed himself up by not just taking McCollum. And then, I guess I can't blame him for not taking Giannis, but in retrospect, you know, God love him. We all loved him, but that was not a good performance. Georgie Ding, is Georgie still playing? He's damn near still playing,
I
isn't he?
think he's
Dion?
out now. I think
Done.
Yeah,
he's
about
out.
a year or two
He was
over.
back at a Wolves game like last year, I
Yeah.
He
want
was
to
the
say.
Hawks, right? At one
Mediocre.
point.
That is great when the Wolves like try to do the old timers thing and bring a guy back, and half the time you're going, "Oh yeah, right. They had him. They had him for a couple of weeks. Unbelievable."
Hey,
William Avery is back to take a bow at the. What was he? A 14th pick, I think, was he?
he was a first rounder. Yeah,
Yeah,
Will
the
Avery.
same year as Zerbiak. The same year as Zerbiak, right? They had 2 number 1s. So
Yep.
I don't know.
Hey,
Okay, I guess
if we
we
set an
decided
over under
baseball.
at May 15th, over under Royce Lewis plays his first
Oh
game.
yeah. That'd be it. Yeah, I guess
Okay.
I'd take he'll be in St. Paul by then, playing 2-3 games, and unbelievable. It's but again, they're saying the same. It's mild, right? It's a mild
Mild.
strain. They said, didn't they? Did they last year when he whatever he pulled last year on
The quad.
opening day? They did. They didn't say 2 months then, did they? They thought at the time they might be getting back in a couple of weeks or so.
I think no, they were pretty quiet about that, but they have doubled down saying it's not as serious as the quad. It's not even remotely close to how bad the quad was.
Honest to God, though, are we worried about it anymore? Do we think that him getting hurt is going to have a big impact on how they play? I don't. I
You
don't.
don't think you don't?
I'm
I
not
mean, he's
in on
good.
it.
He's a really good player, though.
I don't know about that. He's an okay third baseman. He hit 100 last year in September. The fact he's become a home run hitter instead of an athlete is, it's nice that once in a while I hit one on the second deck, but I'm not 100% all in on him. I don't think he has I think they can win games just as easily without him. Now, if they're going to play Miranda at third. Miranda, they got a real quandary about Miranda. They want him to be a bad third baseman or a bad first baseman. Which do they want? That's and then the trouble with having Miranda at third. Julian, who's starting to hit something, by the way, maybe he's actually swinging the bat. Can you have them both in the infield at the same time? My God, that's not good. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, can we get both Patinos to the Sweet 16 here this weekend?
That'd be good. New Mexico's got. They gave them only a 10th seed, right? What the
Yeah,
hell?
they're playing
They-
Marquette, and then the
they
winner
won
plays
the Mount-
Michigan State.
They won the Mountain West, which is a pretty good league, and they were 19-3 or something like that in the conference. Why'd they get such a lousy seed? I don't.
Disrespectful. You
I
can
think
put
so.
that on the whiteboard.
Mark Croyle on the committee. Yeah, Mark Croyle might have said. Mark Croyle made sure Colorado State's got a tough first one, so he can hire
Little
Medved.
Nico.
Is Med if they lose Friday night to Memphis, what? They'll wait till Monday to announce him, right? They won't do it Friday. They don't.
Well,
they
Coyle
won't do
probably
it
has
Friday.
to, be at the regional
that's
all
right.
weekend.
He's
You know what?
So, yeah.
2 a.m. Friday into Saturday, press release.
Invite
Gophers
the-
proudly have announced Nico
in-
Medved as the coach.
Invite the media to come out to the airport media room
Yep.
at 2:30 a.m. How about that?
Press
So we
conference
can-
starts at 4. Coffee and donuts will be served.
No, yeah, only if you pay for them with the university. So anyway, all righty.
All right, Pat.
Well, good big weekend. We're wrapping up the state basketball tournament. The women's hockey's at Ritter. But I talked to Moscow yesterday. They're just sitting around waiting to play. Man, it's been. They're going to be in Fargo next week, but they're going to
pressure on
have
the boys.
damn near 3 weeks off before they're playing a game. All righty. Hey, St. Thomas, Mankato, right here, Friday, 7 p.m., right, on 1500 a.m.
The mighty 1500 ESPN. That's
The
right.
home of the best Division I program in the
I
state,
did
if you care about teams.
I talked to Rocco for a half hour, Rico for a half hour, Blasi on Monday, and I got such good stuff on Rico from other people, I didn't get to use any of my Rico stuff. So that's that's the way it works sometimes. All right.
All right, we'll see you Friday.
Goodbye.
Reusse Unchained, Score North.